Hi, my name's Keith Cooper. In this short video, which goes with a written article as well on the North Light Images website, I'm going to look at an accessory for the Laowa 20mm lens, shift lens that I tested recently. Now I've got a detailed review, video and a written review of this lens. This attachment here also fits the Laowa 15mm shift lens as well, so you can use it for both of them. Now I've just got the 20 here, so I'm going to show some examples of using it with this. Now, it's an odd looking thing. What does it do? Well, it mounts the lens rather than the camera. And the reason you mount the lens rather than the camera is that if you use shift and move the lens with your camera stationary, the viewpoint changes slightly. And that means if you're going to try and stitch images together, you potentially get parallax errors. Now they're where bits don't quite overlap properly, and when you try and stitch the images together, you get errors in it and you get broken lines, you get all kinds of effects like that. It may not make much of a difference for outdoor landscape work unless you've got close subjects that cross the frame. So a bit of a plant or something that runs across the frame, if that's in two images and you shift the lens, then you may get parallax problems. The ideal way to do that is to shift the camera, not the lens. Now, you can mount the camera on a slide rail and move the camera the opposite direction to the shift, but that's clumsy. I've never found it particularly a good way of doing it. This device here, I think it's about $250 extra if you're getting a lens. And as I say, it fits both lenses. It weighs about 500 grams, so it's not a lightweight bit of kit. It's nicely built. And the circular bit, well, I'll show you what that does. If I fit the lens in the middle, and I'll show that in a moment, I can then rotate the whole assembly. And I can rotate the lens like that, and the camera is rotating at the back. Now, the camera and the shift lens here, the lens is stationary, so the camera gets shifted. Perhaps easier to show rather than explain here. Now, the lens itself fits nicely in this. There's plastic bits in it to stop damaging the lens. And you need to look for, there's a little lug sticking out on the lens here, which locates in one of 4 slots at the bottom here. Now, I go into detail in the review as to why you might choose to use different ones here. But depending on how you use the device, you may find it more convenient to use rather than just one of the slots here. Now, I'm going to load this in. Take a big care with this. Lift that up there. Look for the fit. Go. And just tighten that up. Now, I've not got on a particularly hefty tripod here to be able to show this, but one important feature is I've got it on a geared tripod head, and this particular one allows me to align things a lot easier than a normal ball head, and it's the head I use for a lot of my architectural photography. Anyway, we've now got the lens mounted in the frame here. You can tighten this up quite a bit, loosen this off, and the whole lens rotates. Now on the back there are angular measures, so you can see how much you've rotated it. So there's the basic setting with that. Now if I use the shift ring on the lens, I can show lens shift. So that's with the camera shifted up, so that's the equivalent to lens shift down. Things are reversed because you're shifting the camera rather than the lens. And if I take it back the other way, the camera is shifted downwards, and that's the equivalent to shifting the lens upwards. That's what I'd normally use for architectural shots. Now, in the example I've got here, there's a single shot taken with this lens whilst I was testing it. That's great, looks fine. What about if I want a bit more coverage, or if I want a square shot? Well, I can do a shift and stitch. So I can take 2 photographs, one with the lens shifted upwards, one with it shifted down a bit, and then do a flat stitch between the images. And the result of that is an image like that. Now, I may not want all of this area in the front here. This is done really as an example to show how it works. But it's very useful because it gives me higher resolution. So even on a camera like this, the EOS RP, which is only 26 megapixels, if I do an image like this, we're up around about 40. That's more than enough for most users. Now, I don't normally use this lens. This camera here, this is the one I use for my videos normally. I'm using my 5DS for this video at the moment. A bit more cumbersome to set up than the RP. Now, here's the RP. I'm going to take this lens off. Now this lens happens to be an old Jupiter 11A 135mm lens that I'm testing. Cost me all of £7.50 and it's a superb lens. Now I'm going to be covering a little bit about that at some point, but it's a popular lens to adapt. So I'll take the adapter off here. And this is where I will attempt to fit . There we go. I've now got the camera attached here. So here's the camera shifted downwards, lens shifted upwards, and here it is the other way around. Well, that's great. I can do shots like that. I can match my shots up. What about if I want to shift sideways? Well, that's easily enough done. I can rotate the whole camera round to that, and the shift now goes sideways. You might be thinking, but what if I don't want shots in portrait orientation, if I want them in landscape? Well, there's a little tab that I press on here and the camera rotates like that. So I've now got a left-right stitch with the camera in landscape orientation. You might use this if you want a particularly wide shot, if you want a panoramic style shot. So that's the basics of it. Now, what I can do, let's just show another example there. That's just ordinary stitching. What I can do is do a full shift like that, so the camera's fully shifted over, and then rotate it like this and take shots. I can take a shot every 30 degrees. So that gives me 12 shots, which I can then stitch together. Now the example here shows the stitching quite obviously. That's because these are just raw, these are just JPEGs out of the camera. They've not been processed at all for white balance or anything. If I actually process them, I get an image like that. That's 12 shots stitched together. There are no parallax problems whatsoever. It worked absolutely perfectly for doing it. So I can do all kinds of shifts here. That's a shift with, that's left, right. Let's say I set it to diagonal. Once again, the camera is now diagonal, but that doesn't matter because I can just lock that. I can rotate the camera back and set everything there. And there we go. I've now got diagonal shift. Now, diagonal shift can be quite useful. I use it quite a lot. I explain this in the review of the lens where I go into a lot more details. And if you want to know more about tilt shift lenses, this is where I get the obligatory plug for my book all about how to use tilt shift lenses. Yep, a real book, available in ebook form as well. Check out the links in the video. So that's that if it's of help. But you know, that's basically how you set things up for using this device. It's really quite simple. Do I have any problems with it? Not really. I'd like to see a few more marks on the back here where it's only set in 30-degree steps. I'd like them, the tick marks maybe at 15-degree steps might make setting things a bit easier. But in general, this is really easy to use. You can just set this up, get any form of shift you want in your shots. The lens doesn't move, and that's it, that's sorted. One more bit you can do. The rotational axis of this is above the nodal point of the lens. That means that if I do multiple shots, stitches and pan the camera, now I've got a pan head attached to this, which gives me very nice movement. I've also got bubble levels here. You need to get things level. Now the levels in this are very good in this particular head, and you know, that makes it easier to line things up. But I can just set things up. I can have pictures like that, take a series of pictures like that and stitch them together, and they overlap perfectly. There are no parallax problems whatsoever. Tried a few examples of this. Now, an outdoor one, there are no problems normally in doing a stitch like this because there's nothing very close to the camera. You might get some problems with the tree, but the software will normally take care of it. Where it does make a difference is if you go for looking for indoor shots like this. And there, with things crossing, it's quite easy to get parallax problems. But anyway, that's it. It's an interesting accessory. It's a really nice design, nicely built, no problems with it. It only fits the Laowa 15mm and 20mm shift lenses. If, like myself, you use Canon TS-E lenses, then I've got a frame like this as a TSE frame, which performs similar functions to this, but for the Canon 17mm, 24mm and 50mm tilt shift lenses. I put some links to the stuff about this as well in the notes for the video, so you can follow through all of these bits and pieces I've got here. Anyway, it's a nice accessory. The lens is a very nice lens, and I'm tempted to say that, because I'm an architectural photographer, if I was buying one of these lenses, I'd buy one of these with it. Very nice bit of kit. Anyway, hope that's been of help. Please do ask questions, have a look at the articles and things as well. Hopefully they'll be of some help, but please subscribe to the channel as well. I cover quite a lot of things photographic, both lens-based and about printing, printers, business, all kinds of stuff. So thanks for watching.